My predator cousin made out with every girl I dated, so I brought her probation officer to her sister's wedding. Hi, I'm Otis, 31, and I swear on everything I love, yes, I actually did this. And no, I don't feel bad about it. I brought my cousin's probation officer as my date to a family wedding, and yes, I did it on purpose. Let me back up. Amber. My cousin. The family's golden girl since forever. Think pageant queen mixed with homecoming royalty, and just enough sociopathic charm to win over every relative we have. Blonde hair, glossy teeth, GPA that made my aunt cry tears of pride. But what nobody in the family ever seemed to clock was her absolute hobby of making out with my girlfriends. And not like, oops I tripped kind of kissing. I mean full body, tongue down the throat, hand on the lower back betrayal, every single family wedding. The first time it happened, I was 20 and painfully optimistic. Her name was Chloe. We'd been dating for almost a year, and I was convinced she was the one. We drove to my cousin Jenna's wedding together, me in a rented suit I could barely afford, her in a green dress that made my knees go weak. Everything was perfect. My parents were cooing over how happy I looked. My sister called Chloe wife material, and I started to believe it. Somewhere between the first toast and the buffet line, Chloe said she was going to find the bathroom. 25 minutes later, I went looking for her. You ever walk in on something that reprograms your brain? Because I did. Chloe. Amber. Coat closet. She was straddling her. I froze. Amber looked up at me with that smug Barbie smile, adjusted her lip gloss, and said, Otis. Oh my God! I didn't know she was your girlfriend. Chloe stammered some garbage excuse about how Amber kissed her first, how she was drunk, how it didn't mean anything. But Amber just winked and said, Don't worry. I'm not into her like that. You're still my favorite cousin. That was the moment I realized, this wasn't a fluke. That was sport. And Amber? Amber was a champion. I broke up with Chloe that night, and swore it was a one-off. Just a weird, horrifying fluke. But then it happened again. Different girl. Different wedding. Same outcome. And again. 3 girlfriends over 7 years, all ambushed by my cousin like she was on a damn mission. So when I found out Amber was secretly on probation, for credit card fraud, no less, I didn't get mad. I got ideas. Because 3 months later there was another family wedding. And I'd had just enough therapy and whiskey to try something absolutely deranged. I was going to bring someone she couldn't touch. Her probation officer. Tracking down her probation officer wasn't exactly hard, which says something scary about how much information is just out there if you know where to dig. His name was Marcus Brennan. County Supervision Officer. Early 30s. Square jaw. Eyes like he's seen some things and doesn't have time for yours. I found a picture of him from a local paper, something about youth outreach and second chances. He looked like the kind of guy Amber wouldn't be able to charm. Perfect. Now came the hard part, actually meeting him. I showed up to the county building during his public office hours under the pretense of being interested in volunteering. I wore a button-down shirt and my most non-creepy face. He was walking down the hallway, holding a clipboard and a coffee cup like he'd rather be anywhere else. Officer Brennan? I called out. He stopped. Gave me the look. The one cops and teachers give when they know you're about to waste their time. Yeah? My name's Otis. I'm not here about a case. I'm here about a cousin. Amber Westbrook. That got his attention. Subtle shift. Eyes sharper now. I can't discuss her case with you. I'm not asking you to. I said. I'm asking if you'd like to come to a wedding with me. He blinked. I swear, for a second, I saw a vein twitch in his forehead. I'm sorry. What? It's a family wedding. My cousin will be there. She's been. I paused, trying to sound less like a lunatic. She's been interfering with my relationships. For years. Every time I bring someone around, she sabotages it. She kisses them, manipulates them, turns them against me. But she won't do it if you're there. You want me to pose as your date, he said flatly. To intimidate her. Not intimidate, I said quickly. Just exist in the same space. I'm not asking you to threaten her or say anything about her probation. Just be there. Be unkissable. He stared at me for a long time. You're asking me to weaponize my job against a woman at a wedding? No, I said. I'm asking you to eat cake, wear a suit, and let one manipulative blonde woman squirm. I'll donate $500 to your youth outreach program. His mouth twitched, like maybe he wanted to laugh but couldn't allow himself to. You're trying to bribe me? I'm trying to support your cause. Also, yes. Bribery adjacent. He should have said no. He really should have said no. But instead, he said, email me the details. I'll think about it. 5 days later, he sent me one line. Fine. But we're doing this my way. I couldn't believe it. I'd just recruited my cousin's probation officer to be my fake wedding date. And I was just getting started. The plan was simple. Show up. Look good. Let Amber panic. The execution? Well, let's just say I underestimated two things. How hard it is to fake casual charm next to a guy who radiates law enforcement energy. How fast Amber would spiral the moment she saw Marcus. We met for coffee a week before the wedding. Marcus showed up in jeans and a Henley like a man who knew exactly what he was doing to the room. We sat outside a little cafe near my apartment, and I realized quickly that this guy wasn't just here for the donation. He wanted to understand the situation. Which meant I had to spill everything. I told him about Chloe in the coat closet, about Sarah in the hotel stairwell, about Lily, especially Lily. God, Lily wrecked me. I told him about how Amber always smiled sweetly afterward, always said she didn't know I was dating them, always found a way to make me look dramatic or insecure. I told him how my parents gently implied I might be too sensitive. How my aunt said maybe I read into things too much. By the time I finished, Marcus was sitting back in his chair, arms crossed, watching me. That's psychological warfare, he said finally. She knows exactly what she's doing. Yeah. But she's untouchable in the family. The golden girl. He sipped his coffee. She won't be golden when she sees me standing next to you. I stared at him. You're actually doing this? I already said I would. And besides. He tilted his head. You're not crazy. I've seen manipulative behavior before. She fits the profile. You're not imagining it. Something unknotted in my chest. Just a little. We talked logistics, what to say, what not to say. He was clear. If anyone asked, we were friends. Period. He wouldn't lie about who he was, but he wasn't going to volunteer anything either. Then, the morning of the wedding came. I wore a navy suit I'd only pulled out twice before. My sister Emma helped me with my tie. So, this Marcus guy, she said, arching an eyebrow. What's the deal? He's a friend. Is he hot? I paused. He's competent. Emma grinned. So yes. We arrived at the venue, a lakeside estate with strings of fairy lights and way too many hydrangeas. Marcus was already there, waiting in the lobby. Black suit. Clean-shaven. The man looked like a Bond villain who just finished court-mandated therapy. You clean up well, I muttered. He smiled slightly. Let's make your cousin uncomfortable. And then, like a scene from a movie, we walked into the ceremony together. Amber turned. Her eyes landed on Marcus. And for the first time in my entire life, I saw her face freeze. She knew. She absolutely, 100% recognized him. And suddenly, I was the one with the smug smile. Cocktail hour was electric. Amber kept glancing at us like we were ghosts that only she could see. And Marcus? He played it perfectly. He wasn't overly friendly. He wasn't stiff. He was just present, calm, grounded, untouchable. It was like watching someone put a glass dome over a lit match. She kept sparking and sparking, and he wouldn't catch. My Uncle Carl came over and slapped me on the back. Otis. And, you must be Marcus. Marcus shook his hand. Nice to meet you, sir. What do you do? I work for the county, Marcus said smoothly, without flinching. Carl nodded like that meant something. Good man. Government jobs, safe. Steady. I try, Marcus said, taking a sip of his drink. His face betrayed nothing. Meanwhile, I was sweating through my dress shirt, wondering if I'd dragged this man into a social minefield. Amber made her move during the appetizer line. She floated over like she wasn't watching us all night, like she didn't know the name Brennan better than her own. She wore this peach-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and she had that smile. The innocent predator smile. Like she was already deciding which one of Marcus's buttons to unfasten. Otis, she said, her voice dripping with fake warmth. You look nice. Thanks. And you must be Marcus. She turned to him, hand outstretched. He shook it briefly. Marcus, yeah? What do you do? She asked, all doe-eyed, like she didn't already have his badge number memorized. I work in social services. Wow. She tilted her head. Helping people, that must be so fulfilling. Marcus smiled faintly. It has its moments. I swear to you, I watched her brain itch. She knew this was her probation officer, but she couldn't say anything without admitting why she knew him. And that? That was exquisite. She leaned closer. And how did you and Otis meet? We have a few mutual connections, Marcus said evenly. It's a small world. Amber's nostrils flared. She nodded, smiled tight. Well, it's good to see Otis finally bringing someone around. I smiled, all teeth. Yeah, I figured it was time to break the curse. She blinked. What curse? Oh, you know, I said, keeping my voice light. The one where every girl I bring to a family wedding mysteriously ends up making out with my cousin. Figured I'd switch it up. Marcus choked on his water. Amber's face flushed deep pink. That's not. I raised my glass. To new traditions. Marcus clinked his against mine, eyebrows raised. He didn't say a word, but I could feel the amusement radiating off him. Amber walked away seconds later, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. I turned to Marcus. Too much? He smirked. Just enough. Dinner was served, but Amber wasn't eating. I mean, she was moving things around on her plate, stabbing asparagus like it had personally wronged her, but her eyes kept drifting across the room. To me. To Marcus. Back to me. She looked like a cat watching a mouse play chess and losing her damn mind. I was seated at table 5, right in the middle of the reception hall. Marcus and I were flanked by a couple of my second cousins and one of Rachel's old college roommates, who immediately tried to flirt with him until I leaned in and whispered. He's taken. She gave me a look and backed off. Across the dance floor, Amber sat stiffly next to her boyfriend, some real estate guy named Connor or Colin or something that sounded like a country club password. He looked confused. Kept trying to pull her into conversation. She barely blinked. I cut into my chicken. You think she's gonna crack? Marcus dabbed his mouth with a napkin. She's calculating. She'll try something first. She already did. I muttered. What? She wore that dress. Marcus actually laughed, like a real, genuine laugh. First time all night. You're enjoying this? No, I said. I'm experiencing catharsis. The speeches began, maid of honor, best man, lots of crying and bad jokes, and somewhere between the overly long toast and the champagne refill, I noticed Amber had vanished. Bathroom break. Marcus murmured. Or tactical retreat. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned, and there she was. Alone. Otis, she said sweetly. Would you mind if I borrowed Marcus for a dance? I blinked. Yeah? Sure. Marcus gave me a look. Are we doing this? I gave the smallest nod, let her. She led him to the dance floor like a spider leading a fly into the center of her web. I watched them move. Amber leaned in close, whispering. Marcus barely reacted. He kept a respectful hand on her back, his posture upright, professional. The contrast was so stark it was hilarious. She looked like she was auditioning for a rom-com. He looked like he was reciting the Miranda rights in his head. After 2 minutes, he broke away. Walked right back to me. Amber stood there, looking like her date had just walked off mid-proposal. What did she say? I asked. She asked where she knew me from. And? I told her I probably just have one of those faces. And? She asked what I do exactly at the county. And? I said I help people stay out of trouble. He took a sip of water. Then she asked if I wanted to get a drink alone after dinner. My jaw dropped. She still tried it? Oh yeah, he said casually. Even with the risk. Even with the panic. What did you say? Marcus looked me dead in the eye. I said I'm exactly where I want to be. It hit me in the chest, harder than it should have. Thanks, I said quietly. Marcus smiled. I wasn't lying. The rest of the night unfolded like a slow-motion demolition of Amber's self-image. She didn't try anything else. Not directly. But I watched her spiral like a plane losing altitude with a busted engine. Her boyfriend, Brandon, I finally remembered, was clearly getting annoyed. She barely touched him. Barely looked at him. Her eyes were glued to Marcus, like she was trying to solve a puzzle that refused to click. Meanwhile, Marcus was killing it. He danced with my little cousin during Uptown Funk, made my dad laugh with some dry comment about wedding DJs, and complimented my grandmother's brooch in a way that had her beaming for the rest of the evening. He was gracious, warm, just flirty enough to sell the role without overplaying it. And I was floating. Not just from the wine. Not just from the music. But from something else. Something real and weirdly terrifying blooming underneath the revenge. Because somewhere between the third toast and the line for the dessert bar, I realized I wasn't just playing house with Marcus. I liked him. Actually liked him. This wasn't just revenge anymore. He leaned in during a lull between songs. You okay? Yeah. I think I am. Still want to blow up her life, or has the satisfaction plateaued? I smiled. I think I'm good. Watching her mentally fall apart like a Jenga tower in heels has been surprisingly therapeutic. Then he said something that stopped my breath in my chest. I'm glad you picked me. I blinked. What? To stand next to you. I'm glad I got to be that person. My heart did something stupid and soft, and completely off script. Then my sister Emma appeared at my side with a look on her face like she just intercepted a missile. She's waiting for you, she said under her breath. Who? Amber. In the hallway. I think she's about to snap. Marcus looked at me. You want backup? I shook my head. No. I want the final word. I found her just outside the reception room, next to a massive vase of lilies and a discarded tray of half-eaten shrimp. She turned when she saw me. Her makeup was still flawless, but something underneath it had cracked. We need to talk, she said. I crossed my arms. We talking like cousins, or like a woman who just propositioned her probation officer? Her mouth twisted. Are you proud of yourself? Little bit. You humiliated me. No, I said. You humiliated yourself. I just made sure you were awake for it. She looked like she might cry, or punch me, or both. You brought him here on purpose, she hissed. Yup. To get back at me. Nope. She blinked. I brought him here so for once, you'd be the one who had to look over your shoulder. The one who felt watched. Exposed. Like someone might ruin your night just because they could. She stared at me. Do you feel better now? I paused. Thought about it. Yeah. I really do. Amber didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Which, if you've ever met her, is the equivalent of a complete psychological collapse. Her arms dropped to her sides, and that perfect pageant face faltered. For the first time maybe ever, Amber looked human. Not composed. Not smug. Just raw and off balance. I could tell everyone what you did, she said finally, low and shaky. That you brought my probation officer to a wedding just to mess with me. I stepped closer. Do it. She flinched. No, really, I said, voice calm. Please. Walk into that reception. Tell our entire family why you recognized Marcus. Tell them all about your fraud case and community service and how you've been lying to everyone for 6 months. I'd love to hear how you spin that one. Her mouth opened and closed. You wouldn't. I would. But I won't have to. You won't say a word because you're not afraid of me. You're afraid of them. Of what happens when the people who've always adored you find out who you really are. She took a shaky breath. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said. It just makes us even. She looked down, wiped at the corner of her eye like she might cry again, but no tears came. Just this strange, haunted stillness. A kind of collapse you only see in people who've spent too long pretending they were untouchable. I'm getting help, she whispered. I'm seeing someone. A therapist. That's good, I said, surprised at how much I meant it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't. Amber nodded. But I wanted to say it. I stared at her, waiting for the performance, the manipulation, the twist. But none came. She just stood there, quiet, uncertain, and small. For a split second, I felt sorry for her. But I didn't say anything. I didn't offer comfort or absolution. I just turned and walked away. Back into the reception, back toward Marcus, who was talking with my sister and laughing like he'd known her for years. When he saw me, he raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, exhaling. I think it finally is. We danced the rest of the night. Ate cake. Drank too much champagne. My dad gave Marcus an approving pat on the back. My mother whispered that she liked him and hoped he was a keeper. And every time I looked over at Amber, she was seated, quiet, watching, not smiling, not smug, just watching. At midnight, Marcus walked me to my car. The air was cool. My heart was still beating fast. "I can't believe you actually did this with me," I said. "I told you I would." "Yeah, bud, this whole night, it was kind of insane." Marcus gave me this half grin, the kind that hits you low and slow. "You ever want to do something less insane?" he asked. "Like dinner. No revenge plots. No fake dates. Just two people who maybe want to see what this is." I stared at him. "You're serious?" "I don't do things halfway, Otis." I said yes to a wedding full of strangers. "I'm in this now." I smiled. "Yeah. I think I'd like that." Then he kissed me. And it wasn't a "thanks for the show" kiss. It wasn't some exaggerated performance for the crowd. It was soft. Intentional. Real. And that's when it hit me. This night? This whole twisted plan? It started as a way to get closure. But somewhere between the panic and the plotting, I might have actually found something better. 3 months later, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Just a heads up. Amber's officially off probation as of today. So, no more conflict of interest. You still free Friday night?" I stared at the message, half smiling like an idiot. "Me? Depends. You asking as a civil servant, or as a guy who kissed me in a hotel parking lot?" "Marcus. As the guy who hasn't stopped thinking about it since." I didn't know if I was grinning or levitating. That Friday, we went out for dinner. Not wedding food. Not champagne flutes and family pressure. Just us. Real life. A hole-in-the-wall Italian place Marcus picked that had red checkered tablecloths and soft jazz playing from an actual radio. He looked good. Relaxed. Not a badge in sight. No courtroom tension in his shoulders. Just him. And me? I showed up nervous, with a shirt I'd only ever worn on what I used to call hopeful dates. The kind where I actually wanted it to go somewhere. We talked about everything except Amber. We argued about pineapple on pizza. I'm pro, he's tragically wrong. We shared tiramisu. We laughed, like I'd forgotten it could feel that easy to just be with someone. Afterward, we walked around the block, then he walked me to my door. No drama. No dramatics. Except when he kissed me goodnight again. And this time? There was nothing fake about it. 2 weeks later, I introduced him to my sister Emma. She leaned across the table halfway through brunch and said, "Okay. I like him. He's got long-haul potential. Also, you're disgusting together." "It's cute." "I hate it." Marcus laughed. "I feel like that's a compliment." "She means it is," I said. We started dating officially. Weekends turned into weekdays. Texts turned into sleepovers. Pancake, my cat, hated him at first. Then claimed his lap like a throne. My mother started dropping not-so-subtle hints about bringing Marcus to holidays. Amber? She stayed quiet. Didn't reach out. Didn't retaliate. Didn't pull anything weird at the next family barbecue, where Marcus showed up with store-bought potato salad and managed to win over my notoriously cranky uncle by talking about local building permits. Seriously. I don't know how he does it. 6 months after Rachel's wedding, I ran into Amber at a coffee shop. It was awkward. Painfully so. But we both froze, then gave polite nods like coworkers who almost fought once in a break room. Then she surprised me. "I'm going to therapy now," she said. "Like real therapy." "That's good," I said, meaning it more than I expected to. "My therapist says I sabotage people I envy." "That sounds honest." She looked at me, genuinely vulnerable. "I was jealous of you. Of how people trust you. Like you for real reasons. I've always wanted that. I just didn't know how to get it without breaking everything. I hope therapy helps," I said. Not forgiveness. Not a reset. Just hope. Then I left with my coffee in the sense that maybe, we've finally stopped doing damage to each other. Marcus and I? We were still strong. Still learning each other's weirdnesses. He kept toothbrushes at my place. I bought a second mug just for him. He learned how to translate my silences. I learned he listens more in a minute than most people do in an hour. And yeah, sometimes I still thought about the night of that wedding. About the boy I'd been, always looking over my shoulder. And the man I'd become, finally standing tall. 2 months after that conversation in the coffee shop, I got a text that nearly made me drop my fork mid-bite during dinner. From Amber. I'm getting married. I know we're not close, but you're still family. I'd like you to come. And I'd like to apologize in person. Properly. I stared at my phone for a solid minute before showing it to Marcus. He read it, then looked at me across the table. What are you going to do? I don't know. Laugh? Scream? Frame it? He grinned. Want my advice? Always. Go. I blinked. What? Go to the wedding. He said. Not for her, for you. Go because you can. Because you're not the guy hiding in the hallway anymore. You're the one who walked out stronger. It took me 2 days, but I RSVP'd yes. +1. Marcus and I arrived at the wedding 3 months later. She was marrying a guy named Andrew. Schoolteacher. Glasses. Seemed nice. The ceremony was in a converted barn/event space that screamed Pinterest board come to life. Fairy lights. White roses. Soft piano music. Amber saw us the moment we walked in. And this time, this wild, unexpected time, she smiled. A real one. No threat. No agenda. Just nerves and gratitude, and something soft behind her eyes. She came over during cocktail hour, holding Andrew's hand like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Thank you for coming, she said. Both of you. Marcus nodded politely. Then she looked at me directly. I've been wanting to say this in person. I'm sorry. For all of it. For Tyler. For Chris. For David. For lying. For making you question your own memory. Your worth. For being someone who hurt you just to feel powerful. I didn't speak right away. She looked scared again, but not of me. Scared of honesty. Of the moment she was finally trying to be accountable. I nodded. Thank you for saying that. I don't expect forgiveness, she said quickly. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I'm different now. Or, I'm working on it. Andrew squeezed her hand. She really is. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't hiding behind anything. Not makeup. Not fake warmth. Just a girl who used to be a wrecking ball and was now trying to become a real person. I appreciate it, I said. And I hope it works out. I really do. She nodded. Then hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. That night. Rachel's wedding. Did you bring Marcus to hurt me? I thought about it. About the hallway. About her frozen expression when she saw him. About how long I'd waited to take that power back. Yes, I said. I did it to make you feel what I felt. To make you uncomfortable. She didn't flinch. Just nodded slowly. Did it work? You tell me. She gave a dry, self-deprecating smile. I spent that whole night terrified. Then she added, and afterward I realized I hated the version of myself who needed to be feared. So, I got help. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The ceremony started. Amber cried during her vows. Real tears. Her mascara smudged, and for the first time in forever, she didn't wipe it away like it offended her. Andrew looked at her like she was the most fragile, valuable thing he'd ever seen. People can change. Maybe not always. Maybe not all the way. But sometimes. And as we slow danced later under the lights, Marcus leaned down and whispered, You okay? I nodded. Yeah. I think I finally am. He pulled back slightly to look at me. No regrets about bringing me to that first wedding? Not a single one. Good, he said. Because I've been thinking. He hesitated. My stomach flipped. What would you say if I told you I wanted to go to more weddings with you? I blinked. You're not proposing at my cousin's wedding, right? Because that's aggressively poetic. He grinned. I'm not proposing. Yet. But someday soon I want to. You, me. One wedding that's actually ours. I kissed him right there on the dance floor. Across the room, Amber saw us. And for once, she didn't look like she wanted to steal the moment. She raised her glass and smiled. A real one. 3 months later, Marcus proposed. Not at a wedding. Not in public. Not with cameras or grand gestures or surprise violinists. No, he did it on a hiking trail just outside the city, sunset bleeding across the horizon, birds doing their thing, and me, sweaty and mildly out of breath because apparently he believes in earning the view. We were sitting on a rock ledge, sharing a water bottle, when he pulled a small box from his backpack. "Before you say anything," he said, already grinning. "No, I didn't carry this the whole hike. It's been hidden under the seat in the car all day. I just needed the timing to feel right." I blinked. "Marcus." He opened it. Simple gold band. No giant diamond. No bells. Just clean, warm, right? I want a life with you, Otis. With pancakes stealing my socks and your sister dropping in unannounced and our Sunday farmers markets. I want all of it. Will you marry me? I laughed and wiped my eyes at the same time. You realize this entire relationship started because I was being deeply petty, right? I'm counting on that energy for the rest of our lives. So yeah, I said yes. We got married a year later. Small ceremony. No drama. No secret vendettas. Just people we trusted and loved. My sister Emma was my best person. Marcus's brother gave a speech that made both of us cry. Pancake wore a little bow tie for exactly 7 minutes before chewing it off. Amber came. And behaved. She came with Andrew, who still looked at her like she was his favorite plot twist. She didn't make a scene. Didn't hover. Didn't try to be the center of attention. She danced with her husband, complimented my mother's dress, and left quietly after dessert. The next day, she texted me. "You look genuinely happy. I'm really glad. And I'm still in therapy. Still trying. I thought you should know." I typed back 3 words. "Thank you, Amber." That was it. No reconciliation arc. No tearful reunion. Just respect. Distance. Peace. Because here's the thing, this story? It never needed to be about forgiveness. It was about reclaiming something. My confidence. My agency. My voice. It was about choosing who I let close, and finally, choosing someone who never made me question my worth. Marcus was supposed to be a strategy. He became the best part of my life. About 6 months into our marriage, Marcus and I hosted our first big family dinner. It was chaos, obviously. 10 people in our not quite big enough apartment, a cat who kept leaping onto the table like he just remembered he was wild, and my dad trying to open a bottle of wine with a Swiss Army knife because someone, me, forgot to buy a corkscrew. But somewhere between the laughter, the burned garlic bread, and my aunt loudly asking Marcus if we were ever going to give her grandnieces or nephews, I realized something. We weren't pretending anymore. There was no act, no angle, no lingering need to prove anything to anyone, not even myself. I wasn't the guy whose cousin ruined all his relationships anymore. I was Otis. Married. Loved. Settled in a real, boring, wonderful kind of way that I didn't think was possible when this whole thing started. After everyone left, Marcus and I collapsed on the couch. "You know," he said, "this is wildly different from the night we met." "You mean when I cornered you in a government hallway and bribed you to crash a wedding?" He smirked. "That would be the one. I can't believe you said yes." He looked at me. "Otis, I said yes because I saw something in you that day that reminded me why I got into this job in the first place. People wanting to protect themselves, but not knowing how. You weren't being petty. You were surviving." I stared at him for a second. "Okay. But I was also being petty." "True," he said, grinning. But in a charming, highly strategic way. We stayed up talking for hours that night. About the versions of ourselves we used to be. About how love, real love, doesn't always start in a fairy tale. It sometimes starts with paperwork and spite and a desperate need to win a family power struggle. A few days later, I got coffee with Rachel. She'd just come from a meeting and looked exhausted. But as she sipped her iced latte, she gave me that mischievous cousin smirk I knew all too well. "Do you remember?" she said casually. "When I asked if you'd brought Marcus to my wedding on purpose?" I laughed. "You're still thinking about that? Please. It's iconic family lore at this point. You're a legend." I raised an eyebrow. "Does everyone know now?" "Only the cool cousins," she said. "And they love it." "I mean, come on, Amber finally got her reality check, and you ended up with the hottest guy anyone's ever brought to one of these things. Justice and romance? It's Shakespearean." I sipped my coffee. Honestly, I never thought it'd be anything more than a stunt. And now? Now I wake up next to the stunt every morning, and wonder how the hell I got this lucky. She smiled. "Promise me one thing?" "What's that?" That if you ever do tell your parents the truth, you let me be there. I want to see their faces when they realize the man they adore used to be the very same county officer assigned to Amber's case. Oh, I'm never telling them, I said. Are you kidding? They'd have a meltdown. My mom still thinks Marcus is an accountant. Rachel laughed so hard she choked on her coffee. We clinked cups. It's funny, what started as a scheme to get a little control back ended up showing me the life I never knew I wanted. One built on something solid. One that finally felt like mine. A year and a half after our wedding, Amber invited us to brunch. And yeah, those were words I never thought I'd say. But apparently therapy works, because this was not the Amber I'd known growing up. This Amber wore flats instead of heels that could injure someone. She talked more softly, like she was still getting used to not shouting to be heard. And she greeted Marcus with actual warmth instead of flirty calculation. Andrew was there, too. Still the quiet, steady type, still looking at her like she was his favorite book he got to reread every day. They were expecting their first child, and I swear, if you told me that 5 years ago, I would have assumed it was some plot to hijack a gender reveal and pin it on me. But instead, we talked about real things. Amber told us she was doing community volunteer work, teaching financial literacy, of all things. She joked that it was karmic restitution. I nearly choked on my coffee. Marcus didn't laugh, but his eyebrow twitched like he wanted to. Halfway through the meal, she got quiet. I need to ask you something, she said. Okay, I replied, instantly suspicious. When you brought Marcus to that wedding, she paused, searching for the right phrasing. Was there any part of you that hoped it would scare me straight? Like that I'd finally see myself clearly? I blinked. That was not the question I'd expected. I didn't expect you to change, I said honestly. I just wanted to stop feeling like the only one who couldn't. She nodded. That makes sense. I was awful to you. I know that now. And I think, you showing up with him? It shattered the version of myself I'd been performing for so long. Marcus was watching her with that clinical stillness he gets when people are about to admit something real. I started therapy because I wanted to stay out of jail, she continued. But I kept going because I realized I didn't like who I was outside of court either. That's a lot of growth, I said. She smiled. Don't get too proud. I still drink overpriced matcha and follow influencers with fake teeth. I'm just less of a villain now. Baby steps, I said. After brunch, as Marcus and I walked back to the car, he laced his fingers through mine. She's different, he said quietly. She is. And you? I'm not waiting for anyone to ruin what I built anymore. He squeezed my hand. That's what I thought. As we pulled onto the highway, a thought hit me. One I hadn't dared entertain before. I turned to him. Do you think we'll tell our kid one day? You know, how we met? He glanced at me, smirking. I think we'll leave out the part where you bribed a public servant to pose as your date. So just the wholesome version, then? Absolutely not, he said. I'm telling the whole story. Because I want them to know exactly how far their dad went to take his power back. I grinned. Fair warning, it's a long story. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. Yeah. But the ending's pretty great. A few months after that brunch, Marcus and I were invited to yet another family wedding, because apparently my relatives reproduce like they're trying to keep the wedding industry personally funded. This time it was my cousin Danielle. Sweet girl. Big heart. Married a firefighter named Leo who looked like a walking Hallmark movie. The invite came with a note in loopy handwriting. Please bring Marcus. Everyone adores him. I showed it to him, and he gave me this dry look. They adore me because they don't know the origin story. That's the secret, I said. They never will. To them, you're just the guy who helped Otis finally stop showing up alone. Tragic era, he muttered, sipping his coffee. The wedding was at this rustic vineyard with twinkle lights and mismatched chairs that screamed. Pinterest board meets budget constraints. Marcus wore the same suit from Rachel's wedding. I wore a deep green shirt he said brought out my eyes, and I tried not to float. We didn't talk about Amber. We didn't need to. She and Andrew were already there, seated near the back, her baby bump visible under a loose floral dress. She waved when she saw us, no weirdness, no tension, just recognition. Of something shared, maybe. Not friendship. But mutual history. At the reception, my sister Emma grabbed my arm and pulled me to the dance floor. So when are you two having a wedding renewal ceremony so I can wear an actual good suit? We've been married less than 2 years. Exactly, she said. Plenty of time to do it right. I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't stop smiling. After a few songs, I drifted back toward the edge of the room where Marcus was chatting with my uncle about city funding like it was foreplay. He looked up as I approached and immediately reached for my hand. You okay? He asked. Yeah. I'm just soaking it in. We danced to a slow song after that. Nothing flashy. Just the two of us, swaying gently while the bride cried and Leo mouthed the words to some 90s love ballad like it was sacred scripture. Marcus leaned in. Can I tell you something? Always. Sometimes I forget how it started. You know? The fake date. The hallway confrontation. The chaos. I smiled. Yeah? Because now, when I think of you, I don't think about revenge or weddings or cousins behaving badly. I just think this. Us. Pancake knocking mugs off the counter. Lazy Sundays. Bad grocery store coffee. This life. I felt something shift in my chest. That quiet, seismic kind of happiness you don't notice until it's taken root deep down. Same, I said. I think that's how you know it's real. When the origin doesn't matter anymore. Even if it started with a scheme? Especially because it started with a scheme. He grinned. You really are dangerous. And you really were a good sport. We danced until our feet hurt. And when the night ended, we left hand in hand, no drama, no sideways glances, no ghosts. Just two people who had no business finding each other, and every reason to stay. 3 nights after Danielle's wedding, I found an old shoebox in the back of our closet. Inside, a wrinkled copy of Rachel's wedding invitation. A screenshot of Marcus's first reply to my unhinged proposal. A picture of us from that night, taken by my sister, mid-laugh, me red-faced from champagne and nerves, him looking calm as ever. And, at the very bottom, folded neatly, my original list titled, Operation, Stop Amber from Ruining My Life. I sat on the bedroom floor, holding it in my lap like a relic from another universe. Marcus walked in, fresh out of the shower, towel around his waist, dripping like a living temptation. What's that? He asked, drying his hair with another towel. Just an artifact. He looked over my shoulder and saw the heading. His mouth twitched. You kept it? I didn't mean to. You literally labeled it Operation. I'm thorough. He laughed, sitting down beside me, shoulder pressed against mine. What were the steps again? I read them out loud. Find out if Amber's on probation. Identify her officer. Convince him to come to Rachel's wedding. Look amazing. Watch Amber implode. Don't fall in love. Marcus raised an eyebrow. So, 5 out of 6. Not bad. I mean, 6 is debatable. I said. We've established I have poor impulse control. You're still the only person I've ever said yes to under completely suspicious circumstances. Do you regret it? He was quiet for a beat. Then shook his head. No. You brought me into your mess, sure. But it turned out to be my favorite kind. I leaned into him. You're weirdly romantic when you're half naked and damp. He grinned. Just wait till I start folding laundry. Later that night, I put the list back in the box, but this time, I added something else. A Polaroid from Danielle's wedding. Me and Marcus, slow dancing under string lights. Smiling. Relaxed. Unburdened. I wrote on the back in messy black ink. Plot twist. The best revenge story turned into a love story. And I meant it. Every word. Last week, Marcus and I walked past the county building where we first met. He glanced at the steps, smirked, and said, You still proud of yourself? I laughed. Proud of us. Because yeah, I started all this to reclaim control. To make Amber squirm. To win something I didn't know I'd lost. But what I got was better. I got him. Now we have Sunday mornings, pancake curled between us, coffee brewing. We have peace. Amber's just someone I used to fight with. Now, I barely think about her. Because this isn't her story. It's mine. And I rewrote the ending. Not with revenge. With love. And finally, with freedom.